I got to, in the year of our Lord 2024, watch The Sixth Sense with someone that did not know the twist was coming, folks. And it was the best experience. And this movie, talk about holding up for Cabin in the Woods, from 1999, The Sixth Sense holds up beautifully.
Cole Wissinger back today to talk about his 31 Days of Halloween movie marathon. Enjoy.
Bonkers day.
So the pumpkin patch is not open, but
It
you
opens
are
at
in Salt Lake?
4 tonight.
Okay.
And so I'd already taken anyway, I was trying to finagle a couple different schedules. And so now I'm free right now.
Perfect. For all those listening, if you haven't been to a Utah pumpkin patch,
Bro,
it is the ones you see on Instagram.
they do it right.
I'm just sad that Secret Lives of Mormon Wives hasn't already been to a pumpkin patch, so we're hoping next season we're going to get a little fall flavor, you know?
See, we got some decent haunted houses too. We understand that 50% of our population is children in the state of Utah, and so
Yeah.
we do a good job at creating spaces to help moms not go insane with 12 children running around inside of their home. They can take them out to another location.
There's no greater concentration of laser tag, arcade, pumpkin patch, general
And so for a
family events.
32-year-old, 12-year-old myself, it's an okay state to be in.
It's a pretty nice place. I know you're watching some football and playing fantasy,
Yeah.
and you're a Steelers fan.
Steelers.
You're a Steelers fan. Najee.
Somehow
going.
doing better mentally than I think the other side of the state right now. Things are going off the rails in Philadelphia.
Things are unwell in Philly. What's up with them benching Fields, though? Can we talk about
I
that
don't
for
know
2
if they
seconds?
are. I mean, I think the concept is that Tomlin just viewed Russ as the starter throughout all of training camp. And so when Russ gets injured, you never lose your job to injury. Fields hasn't been lights out. The stats look better than what he actually looks like on the field. And
Yeah.
he's not running the offense. No, I don't think Russell Wilson can run the offense either. And I think the offensive line will be much worse when you have a guy behind the line that's 35 years old instead of 25 and spry.
Yeah.
That Justin Fields is. But, the player's coach that he is, Tomlin is not going to allow any guy to lose his job just because he got injured at the wrong time. And even if you did, you'd have to be playing a lot better than Fields to unimpeachably say, no, this is my job now. 4-2 the record should be 6-0 considering the teams that they've played and the games that they've stayed in. So
Things could be going better.
but they're light years
also,
better than I thought they would.
They're much better than you. I'm a Titans fan. It's a dark time in Tennessee.
It could be worse. Yeah.
It could definitely be. You could have a mayo eating quarterback who tosses interceptions, for fun.
See, but now you know. The goal of this season was to find out if Will Levis is the guy.
Now you
found
know.
out.
Yep, we found out. This is bad. Okay, let's talk horror movies again. Let's get into it. Godzilla. How was it when you stopped watching on your phone and went back home?
Oh, it's a spectacle that's worth the big screen. This morning, I'm perusing around the Twitter sphere, and I see that it's coming back into theaters for the 70th anniversary of Godzilla.
Yes, sir.
This is the one. This is worth it.
You know who's going to go back to the theaters that opening that weekend? This guy
Kristen
right here.
O. Torgerson.
And I'm going to push everybody I can. We're going to get a huge group because it's just that good.
So I grew up, my dad is a huge Godzilla fan, and I think that is one of the many geneses of how I end up being into monsters and horror like I am.
Yeah.
But I think he has seen every Godzilla movie, including a lot of animated trash that they've just churned out over the years, and some of the animated good ones too. But anyway, my dad loves Godzilla. So I grew up on a lot of these. I understand the beats. This is a good Godzilla movie. So I'll talk a lot about horror in the 1980s. Some of it appeals to me, some of it I just enjoy, but very few of them are elevated to the point where I would just recommend it to a general movie fan because, hey, they're doing something interesting with the filming or the story or whatever.
Yeah.
No, this transcends. You don't have to be into monsters or kaiju or any of the stuff that makes Godzilla appealing to me specifically to appreciate that this is really good. And also it sneaks in without being ashamed of it either. It sneaks in is the wrong way to say it. It is still a giant Godzilla kaiju fight. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a good movie on time. It's so good.
I mean, I thought the plot line and the fact that it deals with PTSD and survivor's
Kamikaze
guilt.
pilot.
kamikaze
Perfect
pilots.
choice.
And honestly, I just love when the Japanese can get really political with their Godzilla. They're in the best situation.
Mm.
And this one is that best situation of the speech is hit and you just go, oh, it's still, like you're saying, still a Godzilla movie. But it's not flat like some of the legendary ones can be at times, where you're like, okay, we're all just smiling watching Godzilla fight. This is more so like, here's the story of people living with the monster. You're going to see both of them and you're going to understand they're both fleshed out.
And a lot of times the people parts of Godzilla movies are the worst parts
Yeah.
because, you know, there's just random guy off street number one that's writing this script so that we can get through those plot points to get to the point where just a guy in a suit fights another guy in a suit,
Yep.
which is fun. But here, the people are good. Like we get a little USS Indianapolis moment with with our ragtag squadron of dudes. Like not a speech on that level, but that's what I was feeling when they're just out searching, in war-torn Japan,
Yeah.
feeling the true effects of that and how this movie couldn't be in any other setting. The setting has a reason for existing and it's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh,
So good.
lived up to the hype.
And I did see when they bring it back to theaters, they said there's going to be 13 more minutes of
Yes.
exclusive footage. I don't know if that means just like a little tribute before and after, or if it means actual, not never before seen footage of the film.
But exclusive footage like 13 minutes at the beginning of Incredibles 2 with the voice actors saying, "Thanks for waiting 15 years. We're glad to be doing this again. Here's Incredibles 2."
Tom
No, no,
Cruise
no, no, no,
before
no. I
Top
think
Gun
this is going to be
Maverick.
legit, like director's cut version of.
As far as scary goes, speaking of Halloween, how scary was this Godzilla for you on the scale of Godzillas?
On the scale of one of the top
Yeah.
because the visual effects just look amazing. There's something to be said with the practicals, but
Mm.
the CGI here is fantastic. And so I said it a little bit on last week's episode because I had just started it, but that opening scene where we see Godzilla, and they knew that the 2014 Gareth Edwards Godzilla was also a good Godzilla movie, and
Yeah.
but they did not wait, and they did not make us wait an entire movie to get 2 seconds of screen time for the monster.
Yeah.
We get him, and he's scary and he's impactful right off the rip, and then we feel that come down, just like we're feeling the come down from the war also,
Hmm.
and we have to recover and we get time. And every time he comes back, like, again, when they're on the boat and it's just that little
Oh,
wooden boat versus Godzilla,
yeah.
scarier than Jaws,
Yeah.
honestly. And later on, when we're fighting him, and even if it's just big action, you feel his weight. So it's got some good scary moments, and it's got good monster moments, and it's got.
Yeah, I think the scale of him in this one is impressive because at the beginning, when he's smaller on that island in the first attack, like you're saying, I didn't expect to see him for at least an hour. I'm like, we're gonna get some wartime stuff. An
Yeah.
American plane flies by. Okay, what? No, 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 like full on like Jurassic Park level. Oh shit, there's Godzilla here. And then when he's in the town and tearing up the train, and there's the news team on top of the building, it's scary. And the scale is fantastic of seeing like, oh, he's humongous. Not so much that he doesn't notice what's going on. It's so much so that he sees the humans and continues to attack. And it's
Mhm.
just as good.
Yeah, talk about. So one of the things that Jason X is known for is having what the fans call his Uber Jason. So Jason dies, he gets revitalized into this kind of cyborg, half man, half reanimated, whatever. It's an hour and 10 minutes ish into an hour and a tight hour 30 movie
Oh,
before
wow.
we get that version of Jason. And then he just kind of brushes off some bullets and doesn't do anything. You got to know if you have the monster, you got
Yeah,
to know how to utilize your monster as well. Godzilla -1 does it perfectly.
fantastic. How do you follow that up?
I mean, personally, in my marathon, the next
Yes,
movie I
your
watched,
marathon.
I don't know how the Godzilla people are going to follow this
Good
up.
luck
'Cause,
over there.
I watched The Dead Zone. This is Stephen King. I try to get a Stephen King in.
Dead Zone.
I have boxes that I try to tick. I don't get to them every single year, but The Dead Zone is based on a Stephen King work. It's called The Dead Zone. Not very scary here, but it's just kind of it feels like a TV show. And then they did actually make a TV show about it where it's this guy who dies and he ends up being able to be clairvoyant towards certain people. If he touches your hand, he can see into the future. Yeah. And the reason it's called the Dead Zone probably is because he was thought to be dead for a while. He was actually in a coma, and when he came back is when he could do all that stuff. I
Damn.
guess. Stephen King, look, some of Stephen King's stuff is my favorite. Some
Yeah.
of it is not. This ends up being sort of prescient in an election year also because he sees into the future of Martin Sheen, who just plays a perfect president because I've watched The West Wing and he was the chief of staff and an American president. Anyway, can't get away from that. But he's running for president, and this time he's evil. This is not Jed Bartlet we're talking about. He is going to be bad for America, and the vision that we see is that he's going to press the nuclear button and just like devolve the
Wow.
whole world into something bad. And so, in an effort to stop certain doom from this candidate, our hero stages an assassination attempt. And at that
Wow.
point, we see who this candidate truly is because he hides behind a literal baby because he cares about himself more than any of his constituents. And then his reputation takes a downfall and he doesn't get elected, even though he doesn't get like also shot, which I think was the ultimate goal of an assassination attempt.
Yep.
So it's 2024 and we're in an election year, and that I didn't know all that was going to happen because I've never seen this
Interesting.
before, but I just knew in general that it was a Stephen King movie about something. And then Stephen King has also since tweeted in his very open to saying whatever he wants kind of way that
Mhm.
he wrote The Dead Zone about Donald Trump, which he obviously didn't because it was written in the 1980s and this movie is from back then too. But that is an author's interpretation. And you can talk about death of the author if you want on a different podcast. But here we'll talk
Yeah.
about the Dead Zone was an okay movie.
Christopher Walken is in it.
Is the main, yeah.
Fantastic. But also it's a David Cronenberg movie, which I did not realize.
No Cronenberg stuff at all. And by the way, Cronenberg is an actor in Jason X. I'm going to try to connect the Friday the 13th franchise to every single movie that we talk about. How about that?
I like it. Dead Zone. All right. And did you stream that one?
I did. It's available. It was on Amazon Prime at one point. I think now it's on AMC because
Okay.
rights get thrown around
Yeah.
on a daily basis for movies.
We're not sponsored by them, but that's why I love Just Watch because it's just like I consistently have to pull up and say, where's the movie? Where's it gone to now? Anyways.
If they actually keep track of it, right? Isn't Netflix trying to debut something where they're telling you where it's going to be at? But I don't trust any actual service to do this for me because you're just going to tell me it's there when it's really not. And I'm going to accidentally end up on your service and you're just going to hope that I click on something else while I'm there. It's dirty movie.
Yeah, see, Just Watch does a good job because it tells you what's free versus rental, and sometimes it says free, but you look over, it's like free on Amazon with an AMC Plus trial subscription. You're like, okay, that's not actually free.
And
Whatever.
Amazon's trying to be their own little home of everything.
Yep.
It'll say it's really on Prime, but you have to have Shudder, you have to have BritBox, or you have to have whatever
Yep.
other add-ons.
We won't even go there today. Anyways, let's talk about the next one. All right, Dead Zone. We passed on through the Dead Zone.
Day 11, October 11th, I watched Cabin in the Woods. You've seen this movie.
Oh,
My wife had never seen this movie.
Cabin in the Woods. All right, and how'd she like it?
She thought it was great. I promised her that it would be more funny than scary, and it delivered. It had the big action at the end. You know, the zombie redneck torture family in the middle of it has some good beats. You can always feel the levity coming, and you know that the situation isn't actually what the situation is because we keep doing the intercutting with the people back at the base that are orchestrating this whole thing. Cabin in the Woods, one of my favorite movies. This reiterated it. It's always one of my favorites when I go back and see it.
Great cast, lots to talk about. On my Reddit, it consistently is trying to like push other posts like, hey, are you interested in this subreddit? Cabin in the Woods is consistently talked about in film or horror or any
It
other
should be.
film related thing. What'd you guys think of the ending? Hey, does it still hold up? It absolutely rips. I mean, it's a great movie.
Yeah, and I think this time I was thinking about how those there's a line in the movie where they say we work with what we have, and this time I was thinking about how the actors were having to play characters in the beginning of the movie that slowly are being molded by whatever gas that they're piping into the cabin in the woods into these stereotypes that they're supposed to be playing in the horror movie that is supposed to be for us, right? However meta you think it is more meta than that. And so even when they kind of break out of it at the very end and they can be themselves again, they're, you know, our main girl plays what is supposed to be the virgin. She's the final girl. And even in the movie, when she's sitting there with the nerd character, she says they're about to kiss. And she's like, wait, I've never, but not never. Like she realizes what she's saying because she's not, but she's supposed to be in the movie. And so she like starts saying it, but realizes it's so good.
Yeah. It's one of those ones, yeah, for everyone who may be like me, who is not a huge fan of horror or just doesn't love the scary stuff, whatever, this is one you just have to watch. This is just a great one.
And it does still hold up. 2012, we're not that far removed. Was it? No, couldn't. Yeah, 2011, because Joss Whedon
Pre-Avengers?
was doing Avengers in 2012.
Yeah,
It's an insane
2011.
run.
2011. That is an insane run. And this is also Chris Hemsworth, right?
Mm-hmm. This is Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth. Wonderful. All right, what was October 12th?
The Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas.
What? I don't think I've ever heard of this one.
This is a horror Yeti movie. It's a Hammer horror movie. So I have a book, and it's a big hardback. Got it for Christmas or my birthday one year from one of my good friends. And it's called The Art of Horror Movies. And so to decide on this movie, I just decided to open that book to a random page and point. And this movie was featured in there, talking about other Hammer and other horror of the like 50s and 60s era. It's got it's got the Yeti monster, and just
Okay.
the plot is that the Yeti's, a monster and we need to take it down. It doesn't have to have a lot of plot.
Simple
It's a Hammer
enough.
horror movie. Hammer was doing a lot of great stuff. Last year I watched Quatermass in the Pit, which is another, like, the British horror people will come back to a lot of Hammer stuff, especially those old Quatermass movies or this. It's got Peter Cushing in it, by the way.
Yeah. Star
And
Wars.
so it starts to tick some boxes and it makes sense. It's a little bit ignored because it didn't have three sequels and it isn't, featuring specifically Frankenstein or Dracula like Hammer did with a couple of theirs, but it's still decent.
Wow. The Abominable Snowman in the Himalayas.
Yes. I think in America it was just called The Abominable Snowman. I'm looking at a couple different
Gotcha.
artwork posters for it. But yeah, in the original, or no, I had it backwards. The original in Great Britain, it was just The Abominable Snowman. The US title, The Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas.
Of the Himalayas.
Yep.
1957. All right.
Available on Hulu. That's where I watched it.
Go Hulu.
And then the 13th was Friday the 13th. The 13th morning, actually, I queue up The Sixth Sense with my wife because she has never seen that. And I have this list of movies that I want to watch with her, and I'll let her choose. And then I didn't realize until the night of the 13th that it was the 13th. So then I watched Friday the 13th also on that day. But The Sixth Sense, I got to, in the year of our Lord 2024, watch The Sixth Sense with someone that did not know the twist was coming, folks. And it was the best experience. And this movie, talk about holding up for Cabin in the Woods, from 1999, The Sixth Sense holds up beautifully and does what so many movies, and honestly so many other Shyamalan movies, fail to do, is hold up once you know the twist is coming and get better when you know the twist is coming. This is not something, I'm not the first person since 1999 to say that. There's a reason it was like number 2 in the box office at the end of the year, because without the internet, people were rushing out to see it a second time immediately and then telling their friends, hey, watch it, but don't see it. Don't listen to anything about it. You got to see this. But top to bottom, for this to be M. Night Shyamalan's first feature-length directorial debut kind of thing, he was never going to live up to that.
No. And you almost feel sad for him because you're like, there's just no way. There's just no way you could ever match it. I mean, I think some of his other early 2000s ones had a lot of hype, but have not been as well loved in the long term.
That you can put on a pedestal. Sixth Sense is by far the best. And then there have been other really good ones. And then he's got this trash too. But yeah, The Sixth Sense. And so we get almost to the end. And my wife, Kadri, turns to me and she realizes at the exact moment you're supposed to realize, when his wife is sitting, she's watching the wedding video. And then we start just like talking, going through every scene with her. Oh, yeah. Spoiler alert, everyone. Bruce Willis was dead at the end of The Sixth Sense.
This is one, my fiance has a shirt she got in high school, made in high school. I don't know. One of those crazy t-shirt websites where you just like got pop culture t-shirts.
Yes.
And it just had spoilers on it. So just a shit ton of spoilers. Now she has told
Luke's
me,
father. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, she told me that she knows from the T-shirt that Bruce Willis is dead, but she has no idea what the movie's about. I told her, I was like, look, this Halloween season is the perfect time to watch it because even knowing that he's dead, the movie's gonna be great. So that's good to hear that it worked out with your wife. That still holds up.
Sixth Sense available for streaming. Maybe this is also a Hulu. Yeah, also on Hulu.
Go Hulu.
And quite possibly, I was going through some of them with my wife. maybe the most famous spoiler in movie history, other than maybe Darth Vader. Like Empire Strikes Back is right there,
Yeah.
and then The Sixth Sense. It has that kind of staying power from just this small, first time director horror movie. It's a ghost movie, and it transcends everyone else. So
Some guy from Philly was like, you know what? I've got an idea.
the M. Night does not shy away from putting his stuff in Pennsylvania. I love it.
He is great.
The village is specifically a village, and when they get out like onto the road, I'm pretty sure they walk out onto some highway in a suburb of Philadelphia. That's
Well, and I don't know if you saw Trap, but I liked in Trap. I'm like, we're still here. We're still in Philadelphia. He just keeps it in Philly.
I've got one more. So I watched
Okay,
two
cool.
on the 13th, took a night off on the 14th.
And remind me again, which Friday the 13th was this?
This is year 10 of the marathon. And so Friday the 13th, 10 is called Jason X, X being the Roman numeral, and
Oh,
also, you know,
sorry, that was
your
Jason X.
your cyborg Jason at the end. You can call him Jason X if you want. Fans call him Uber Jason.
Did it hit? Was it great?
It wasn't great, which is what it
Okay.
sounded like you just said.
You know?
I have so now I'm 10 in. The next Friday the 13th movie on my radar is going to be the Freddy versus Jason. So I watched a couple, just other people on the internet ranking these sorts of things. Jason X comes in towards the bottom of a lot of lists.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
and it's pretty bad. It tries to be laughably bad at times. It tries to be self-aware. It was 2001 at this point. We're so far removed from the 80s and
Yeah.
what made Jason good. There's some decent kills, one of the best kills in the entire franchise, and that's what, by the way, the Friday the 13th movies have to hang their hat on usually is the quality of the violence.
Hmm.
And one of the best in the entire franchise is in this one. It tries to be jokesy and funny and self-aware. I give it. And then the other scene that people talk about in this movie is when Jason essentially is being distracted from the people he's actually going after by a hologram projection on this Enterprise looking thing that they've got going on. Also, a lot of just in general alien references. We're by the end of today's call, we're going to be talking about how for the next 7 days I'm going to be watching some alien movies.
Okay. Okay.
This does a surprising amount of just alien horror that's totally ripped out of a movie that came out originally in 1979, not exactly like prescient in the minds of people in 2001. There's a
But
blatant Matrix ripoff, which actually does belong a couple years after the Matrix came out. Anyway, so he gets distracted by this hologram projection thing of just Camp Crystal Lake and a couple young teen campers that take their shirts off and say, "Oh, come here, Jason. We're about to like drink beer and smoke a doobie and have premarital sex." It is as jokesy as it should be. And yet, I knew it was coming, and I've seen this movie before even, and it comes so late in the movie. And at this point, it's already a bad movie. But when they talk about scanning the files to see how we could best distract this Jason killer, and we end up with a projection of Camp Crystal Lake, for the first time watching this, I thought, oh, a good movie here would actually have Jason's mom, because that's the killer in the first movie is Jason's mom. At the end, it's totally like reverse Psycho. That's why the first movie's more decent than people give it credit for, where the mom is haunted by the ghost of the son and hears those voices and goes crazy. It's absolutely just
oh,
the backwards of Psycho.
yeah.
So, and then in the second movie, we hear the voice of the mother when zombie Jason is out doing his kills for the first time. Because for anyone that hasn't seen Friday the 13th, a 40-year-old movie at this point, spoiler, the mom is the
Mhm.
killer in the first one, and then it's Jason for the rest of them. So I thought, okay, a good decision here actually would be to have him be haunted by the voice of his mother, like he has been in the earlier gooder versions of this movie.
Yeah.
That does not happen.
Instead,
And instead it's just a couple topless 20-year-old actresses that get
wonderful.
swung around in sleeping bags, which is a reference to an earlier movie also, and another great kill in the Jason franchise. Yeah, Jason X it's not, I don't think it's the worst because it knows that it's being funny, but it also is not funny. So it's not at the top end either.
So not the first one anyone should watch,
No.
but also don't toss it away without watching it.
Yeah, it's fair.
What was last night's?
Practical Magic,
Practical Magic.
available on HBO Max is where I watched this one. And this is Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman play it. This takes you on a trip, man. This is just two witches in a town that knows they're witches and hates them for it, but also totally knows that they can do magic, but sometimes
Okay.
they avoid having to do the magic. Anyway, they're two sisters. It starts when these sisters are very young and they're trying to break this curse that their great 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 grandmother witch, when she was being witch trialed, put upon the witches of their family, that if they ever loved a man, that man would die or something.
Wow.
And so the eventual Sandra Bullock character, when she's a little girl, tries to break the curse by dreaming up the most crazy man imaginable. And so, spoiler alert, she ends up meeting the man, and he's great. Like, he'll flip pancakes and have one green eye and one blue eye and something, something, something. And then she finds that man. And that man, actually, though, is a police officer that comes to their town because he's chasing Sandra Bullock's sister, Nicole Kidman, in a murder case from Arizona where they did actually murder this guy because he was being abusive towards Nicole Kidman. They murder him, and then in order to cover up the murder, because they don't want to go to jail for murder, they end up using magic to bring him back to life. But then when he comes back to life, they murder him again because he just immediately is back to life and trying to strangle them. And so then they end up killing him again, bury him in the garden. This movie takes you on a trip. It is such an enjoyable watch, such perfect Halloween vibes, fall vibes, just little witchcrafty kind of stuff. No scares here, right? Just an
Okay.
enjoyable. The soundtrack puts you in a 90s, just it has more Hallmark Channel Halloween movie than
Okay.
it does any kind of scary, horror stuff, but so good.
I recognize when I pulled up the poster. I recognize the poster from Movie Gallery and Hollywood Video. I'm like, okay, hold on. I've seen this movie for years. I had no idea it was a movie about witches. To me, it looked like a rom-com cover or something, like
And
the
it kind of
orangey
is.
gold. Yeah, it just looks like two girls in the city over there. So that's kind of fun. Okay, so a little rom-com, not so much scary, but there's some murder and witches involved.
Depending on which poster you're looking at, right? It's got the yellow or the orange and black, which is your Halloween vibes.
Hmm.
But then at the bottom, in all those candles, it has the silhouettes of all of this little witchy family and their witch hats and their umbrellas. And so it absolutely is about witches. Talk about the West Wing and Martin Sheen earlier with the Dead Zone.
Hmm.
Stockard Channing, who plays the first lady in the West Wing, she's one of their aunt witches who is kind of
Oh.
constantly buzzing in and out, giving them unwanted advice.
And we have a
Good.
young Evan Rachel Wood in it from Westworld
Westworld,
fame.
is the big one.
Fantastic.
She plays so Sandra Bullock does fall in love and her husband does die because that's the curse, and but they have two daughters before he dies. Evan Rachel Wood is one of those daughters, as we're just lightning fast traveling through time in this movie, just going from going from the 1600s when the witch trials were happening all the way through, and then eventually little Evan Rachel Wood is like borderline teenager-ish whenever the movie ends, and she's the next generation of witch.
And this is directed by Griffin Dunn, who directed movie 43, or one of the segments there.
What a
Some of the,
great first line on your IMDb.
I'm like,
Jeez.
okay, wow. I was just trying to see though, because he seems to have been an actor in American Werewolf in Paris, in London. Anyway, kind of
Both.
fun. You love people who love horror enough to be in it and around it all the time.
And honestly, American Werewolf in London, especially, that's the one I have more fond memories of. I'm sure I've seen Paris at some point, but
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you a single plot point from it. American Werewolf in London is known for having one of the best werewolf transition scenes. The practical effects in that, very wonderful. And I guess scary to see a man's face turn into a snout right in
Hmm.
front of you. They don't shy away, they show you.
Yeah.
The majority of the movie is kind of this buddy romp funny thing with a couple scares thrown in. But yeah, Practical Magic, American Werewolf in London. If you've got friends that like the Nightmare Before Christmas Hot Topic feel of
Uh-huh.
Halloween, but don't actually want to dive fully into scary movies, those are the kind of fall vibes that you can throw at them. I don't think maybe American Werewolf in London is a little bit. It's got it's werewolf.
Yeah.
But anyway, Practical Magic for sure. Great recommendation, just as a cool rom com that happens to include witches.
Fantastic. What's tonight's movie? What's on your list for tonight?
Now we start the Alien marathon.
Oh boy.
Today is Alien 1. the best as far as what I remember. So I am missing, there are 7 of them. So this will be what we talk about next week is the 7 Alien movies I talk about. One,
Yep.
Aliens, Alien 3, and then Resurrection, then Prometheus. I've never seen Covenant before, so this will be a first time watch there. We've talked about that. And I've not yet seen this year's Romulus either.
Oh
So
my
that'll be
gosh.
next Tuesday to round out these 7 movies, not including either of the 2 Alien versus Predators. I think I've seen the first, I've never seen the second.
Never seen the second
Um,
either.
but they didn't make the cut because there's 7 other movies and it just fit conveniently in what you and I are doing once a week.
Yeah, Madison and I watched Aliens, Prometheus, then Romulus. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on 3 and Resurrection, you said the other one was?
Yep.
I want to hear those. And then I want to watch Covenant now. Romulus, I really liked. So I'm not going
Okay.
to color anything else. Have you seen clips from Romulus all over Twitter and stuff?
Nothing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, I had a couple things spoiled for me before going. So
Okay.
for the best, don't look it up and hopefully you'll just be surprised.
Will do.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's episode. But before we do, I want you to think about your top 6 horror movies. And we'll come back to it when we fully wrap up the series. But Jordan
Okay.
Peele was just on Tonight Show. And of course, Jimmy Fallon was laughing while trying to talk him through his top 6 horror movies. And he has him rank these movies. And Peele goes Nightmare on Elm Street #1,
Ooh.
The Exorcist #2,
Yeah, that's going to be up there for a lot of serious people.
Psycho #3, which I
Good.
know you love Psycho.
Mhm.
He has Shining at 4. Now, I will say these are pre-selected options from Jimmy, so who knows? So he has Get Out at 5, which I know is a little too high for probably even Jordan's list. Then he has Saw at 6.
Well, and we also know Jordan is very familiar with the horror genre
Yeah.
from everything that we've heard. So yeah, if he was just like arranging cards
Yep.
as a Tonight Show bit,
Yeah.
then yeah, he'll throw himself in there. But especially right after, I remember right after Nope came out, someone was talking about him having a better first 3 run than Carpenter and all these other, and he was like, whoa, 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 slow your roll, man.
Yeah.
Like these geniuses are there for a reason. Get Out was good, and he'll say it too, but he's humble and he knows where it all comes from. But the rest of us can also throw in Get Out there because it's about as perfectly written a movie as you can ask for.
Yeah, I do like, I remember that exchange. I do like he's humble enough to say, please don't throw me in with my heroes at the same level because there is a difference. And that's just such a different time for horror. I mean, obviously, as you go through your list, we're having a lot more random indie stuff and smaller
Yeah.
movies, or the ones that get big are like Megan, which is it horror? Is it not? That's up to you, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to
I
go see Terrifier 3?
I I don't think so. I have more than I thought 2024 movies that I didn't get around to yet in the year. And 31 Days is going to come to an end. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find enough of them in streaming or in if they're hanging on in theaters kind of thing. Trap is on the short list.
Yeah.
In a Violent Nature is a really cool concept of a horror movie where you're following POV of one of these Jason style just slow roll killers through the woods. Yeah, there's Long Legs certainly. I saw the TV Glow, definitely I will because
Yeah.
that one's on Max. Yeah, I'm going to try to get to a few of these 2024 before the month is over.
And you did see Maxine this year, right?
Yeah, Maxine
Oh,
I
yeah.
have seen. That completes that Pearl X trilogy.
Well, for everyone listening, we've got all these movies that we've talked about thus far linked in our show notes, as well as where to watch them with a couple options for free or rental. And we'll be back again next week with more horror with Cole. Before we go, make sure you check out the show notes on your favorite podcast platform for links to the movies that Cole mentioned today, with Halloween 2 from 2018 and Saw from 2004, as well as links to all of the previous articles Cole has written with us covering his 31 Days of Halloween. Until next time, we hope you watch good, scary movies and TV.